Spoilerin time. This is a show where Brian Brushwood and myself, Tom Merritt, hosts of Cord Killers, after we record Cord Killers, will spoil intentionally several television episodes and sometimes movies that we have been watching recently. Brian, we are going to spoil some stuff. We're going to spoil the hell out of some shows.
Well, I mean, you say spoil, I say ruin. Stop, cease your ability to enjoy is what spoiling means. And
unless you've already watched it, in which case it'll be a fun and informative discussion of something that you also enjoyed.
Yes, that works entirely fine for me, but I feel like we can't do it alone, Tom. I feel like we need some support.
No, especially the first two things on our docket, because we're going to finish with The Shield. I did watch episode 13, season 4 on Hulu, because it's gone from Amazon Prime. We watched House of Cards. We watched Better Call Saul. We also watched Birdman, as did our guest, Alex Hanna, a.k.a. Tinvec. How's it going, Alex?
Hey, pretty good. I don't mind that you guys spoil things that I haven't watched, especially like The Shield. Show I never really got into, and I think I'm enjoying it much more just listening to you talk about it, Tom. So
it's like a serialized, in 3-minute increments, you get the bulk of the story, and then you're able to, down the road, when you listen to other people talk about The Shield, you're able to know what the beats are, and it's like you're getting caught up to date, culturally with everyone.
I tell you what, I remember Kate Botello of the Screensavers and our producer, Jennifer, talking about Alias before I ever watched it. And it intrigued me. And it ended up going and watching Alias and watching back episodes on DVD back then. And then getting to the part where I'm like, hey, I think this is the episodes I was overhearing them talking about. And it was actually kind of fun and exciting.
Yeah, man. Well, so let's, we don't want to dive in with that first, right? We got to.
No. Leading off and playing all the bases, the complete season of Hacking the System, Brian. Congratulations. It's all out there now.
Dude, it's very weird. It's very weird to see the explosion of interest from people who, are discovering the show for the very first time, because they ran a marathon. And again, thank you to Jackie Hearn for reminding me. They ran a marathon on Friday of back episodes. It looks like they're doing another one this upcoming Sunday. And it's weird because all of that work is now done, and yet from time to time it's going to bubble up all at once on the channel, which is it's very exciting, very flattering, and people have said universally really nice things about Hacking the System, and I, of course, I'm going to recuse myself from this conversation, but I want to know what you guys thought as the season wrapped up.
Well, I actually believe that I objectively think it was an amazing season, but I also am sitting there cheering for my friend Brian. So, Alex, what did you think? Because you've watched them all, right?
Yeah, definitely. I thought they were great too, and I come to this some of the side of it that you do too, Tom. Where Brian, I've watched you go through all the rigmarole of not being able to talk about it, but still talking about it on Night Attack, and so I feel like I've been with you through the whole journey. So it's not exactly objective for me either, but as somebody who generally kind of enjoys those types of shows of, using things for purposes they were never intended to, because that's just damn cool.
Well, it's funny because it very much is that waterfall television where it's like you just want them to keep going, and you don't care what's next. Just keep doing that that hacking thing or whatever.
Yeah, and especially since it's interesting. Like, it's these things that some of them I'd heard about before. I've been in Boy Scouts, like dryer lint to start fires and stuff like that. But other things like I would have never thought of using the piece of a cell phone as a spear. That's brilliant.
Yeah, well, and again, it's one of those things. That's part of the reason it was important to me to move quickly with everything. When we had the initial meetings, I was like, I want it to be dense. I want you to be never 30 seconds away from another idea, because some of these you're going to have heard of before, but you're going to need to get trained very quickly that another new idea is never more than a half minute away.
Definitely. No, it was definitely a good run for the series, and I definitely enjoyed it. I truly did. So good job.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
So go watch it. It is available in all kinds of places for cord cutters. You don't have to watch it on the National Geographic channel.
Yeah, dude, it's on. You got 4 episodes that are on Hulu right now. I don't know if they're rotating those out, but there's 4 episodes on Hulu. You could, of course, buy it from iTunes, Google Play Store. It's on Amazon.com. It's on Xbox Video. It's on Vudu. And funny thing happens when you go to YouTube and type in the words hacking the system. You'll see 2 episodes released by National Geographic, and who knows what else you'll find if you're to do a YouTube search for hacking the system.
It's amazing what you'll find in searches, Brian.
What's that?
It's amazing what you'll find in searches.
Searches are amazing things. No matter what demographic you're in, no matter what region you're locked into, it seems like some amazing things are there.
All right. Let us look at Birdman. Well, let's not look at it because we all looked at it already. Let's talk about it. Brian, what led you to finally watch Birdman?
To be honest, it was the fact that Bonnie wasn't interested in watching another episode of House of Cards. And so it was, it was Saturday night. It was, she was going to bed. It was only 11 o'clock. And I was like, well, I'll show you. I'm going to watch me some Birdman because I know everyone's talking about the Birdman. And I went into Birdman, obviously understanding that the imagery was vaguely superhero based, having a vague idea that it wasn't a superhero movie. And I think I heard a snippet of an NPR interview in which I discovered Ed Norton was in it. That's pretty much all I knew. That and, unfortunately, the one bit of information that haunted me and maybe ruined my experience. I don't want to say ruined, but made difficult my entire experience, which was knowing that it is the Best Picture winner of 2015. It's or of 2014. It's one of those things where this is the reason I like audiobooks is when I'm reading books, I can't help but just a little quick glance ahead. Oh, am I at the end of the chapter? I wonder, I bet that colors, what's going to happen up here, there's a big block of text. I wonder who it is he's arguing with up ahead. The whole time, Best Picture. I wonder why it is that this was Best Picture. Was it this? Was it this? Could it be a twist or whatever? And even if I'm wrong, I'm distracted thinking about it. And let me just say, for the record, if I had just discovered this as a random independent film that just showed up, somebody's like, yeah, you need to watch it, I would have been deeply, deeply in love. But my experience was definitely degraded by knowing it's the Best Picture. And I feel bad that such a smart, clever film has that stigma on it. And you're making a face as I say stigma, but
no, I was putting that together in my head. Like, it's just too bad that a show won an Oscar for Best Picture and it will have to live with that. It's just it's an odd thing to think of, but I know exactly why you're saying it.
It's also, I mean, here's the other thing. I started a bit of a little discussion on Twitter where it's like, look, I get it that the Academy is filled with actors, and I get it that part of the reason that you're actors is because you adopt personas to fill your ego or whatever. Look, we're all broken. I get it. But can you be a little classier about hiding it? Do 3 of the last 4 years Best Pictures need to be movies that are about hooray for acting? Can we maybe have more Best Pictures that aren't just nakedly about like guys acting's hard and important?
But I don't get the idea that the predominant voter are acters.
Well,
are they?
I mean, they work in the industry. They
yeah, but they're producers and editors and directors.
I know, which is why why Argo about how actors and film industry people rescued hostages made #1. It's why Birdman, an existential self-analysis about how hard it is to be an actor made
which
#1.
is as much about being a producer as it is about being an actor.
Sure,
actually, and a director.
I mean, look, can we stop this incestuous self? Yeah. Let's look. That's fine. That's how you feel. That's fine. That's who you are. Let's not being so transparent about it, guys.
Why not? It's their Academy.
All right, well, get ready for my new movie. Hooray for actors. They're super the best.
Isn't the Screen Actors Guild Awards a direct response to the fact that the Academy wasn't always picking what they thought were the actual best actors?
I actually don't know that. I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm guessing that. I don't know that either.
Could be. But at any rate, that's neither here nor there. As far as the movie, I thought it was delightful. I thought it was really good. I had some problems with the ending. I had some problems with the sequence where he's flying around and it turns into an action movie very briefly, in that I was left not understanding what I was supposed to feel. I don't mind ambiguity in the ending of my movies. For example, at the end of Inception, I thought it was great that we never knew whether or not the top fell. I do very much mind not knowing what I'm supposed to feel, because if you watch everything and take it at face value, dude tries to commit suicide 4 times. Tries to drink himself to death, then gets on the side of the building, dances around, then tries to shoot himself in the head, and then finally jumps out a window at the end. Which of those attempts am I supposed to cheer for him, and how am I supposed to feel when it finally works? And it wasn't until rewatching it last night with Brant and sort of reanalyzing everything, if you look at it through the lens of all of the dream sequence was totally a dream, including the part where he was standing on the side of a building and a guy talks him down. So that didn't happen. That was all in his head, where he was making a decision about whether or not to, be obsessed with Birdman or not. And if you also fold in the ending, that weird ambiguous ending where, she's looking up and smiling as if he's flying around. If you fold that into a dream sequence and believe that it really means that he's embracing his new role as someone as being free from, the Hollywood stigma. And so then I'm okay with it, but it shouldn't take a second viewing for me to get to that place.
Alex, what did you think of the ending?
I really liked it, and I'm gonna have to disagree with you a little bit there, Brian, because I feel like this movie's intentionally that way. And it looks like my video froze, which is excellent.
Yeah, no, they said the world's best ventriloquist right now, Tinvik.
I'm so good at it. No, I think that you're supposed to be uncomfortable with the ending, and I don't think that this movie was supposed to tell you how to feel about it. Because the questions are to me the more important part of the movie. When he goes through all this stuff and he goes to that flying dream sequence like you were talking about, and he gets he runs back, or he starts walking into the building, and then the cabbie runs up behind him, and you're like, okay, so did he just take the cab or did he not, or what actually happened? And I think that's the intriguing thing to me about this movie, is that you don't have answers to those things. And did he end up flying at the end? Was he really flying?
No, there's zero chance. I mean, that's the problem, is I thought they were fairly directly clear about everything.
Why did Emma Watson look up and smile then?
Well, she didn't. That's the only way I can read that, is that's part of his fantasy as well. Is that his fantasy is that he flies away, and his fantasy is that his daughter's proud to see it.
Or maybe he did kill himself and his daughter is happy to see him happy.
But in his fantasies, remind me, I'm asking, I don't remember. In his fantasies, do we see other people usually, or do we only see him and the bird?
It depends on how you read it, because, for example, actually, you definitely see other people reacting to him, because in one of his fantasies, he just rises up and starts flying around, and then people on the street start saying,
well, right, strangers.
Look, that guy.
Do we see anybody he knows?
Not, and again, this is, I believe, a minor flaw in the storytelling, is that
Emma Stone, not Emma Watson. Sorry, Hermione. Anyway, carry on.
Is that Sam, his daughter, is the only character who, well, and also, yeah, no, I guess that is right. That she's the first person he knows that actually appears to see it. But again, I just write that off as.
That's why I read it as, ooh, wait a minute, maybe this time he did.
No
fly.
way. No.
No, I know there's no rational explanation of him flying, which is why I liked the other scenes where he's imagining the flying, because it's very explainable at the end of the sequence that, oh, well, he just took the taxi, but he's crazy. So he's imagining it as if he was flying, and he's imagining as if he was standing. And we very clearly see that when Zach Galifianakis opens the door and looks in, he's throwing things. He's not moving them with his mind. And I think that's the best scene yet. But to me, that was the twist at the end, which is for the first time, a person he knows acknowledges the thing that he's doing that shouldn't happen.
Yeah, I did not see it that way. And I don't think I can see it that way.
I don't know.
Well,
I think to me. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that explains just your reaction. That's all.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was just gonna say, I think to me, him killing himself or actually flying are both equally plausible in the way that the movie told the story. If you want to believe that he was flying around the city like that whole time, you can, and then that means at the end of the movie that he did. He did fly. If you want to think that throughout the movie he was crazy and he's imagining all this stuff, then more than likely at the end of the movie, you think he killed himself. Or,
now, wait a minute. Is
you know.
Birdman, the actual superhero-looking Birdman, is he blue and gold or is he white and black?
Yes.
Which do you see?
He's all of those. I'll tell you what. Also, I was fascinated by the weird fake out that they do early on. The fact that that not only do they show what's clearly a supernatural being, an alien or whatever, and they set you in this one headspace, but then also he claims credit for having thrown the light onto the dude to get him out of the play. And then there's this weird moment where Zach Galifianakis is like, wait, what? And then but then they go farther, because I was like, I remembered hearing, and again, this is the minor spoiler, like in that NPR interview, I just heard something about a fight scene and how the fight choreography between Michael Keaton and Ed Norton had to be different from other movies. And so seeing Ed Norton show up and seeing him and knowing like, oh, there's some kind of fight between the two. And then immediately he's smarmy and self-confident and then starts reciting lines from the play. And he first jokingly says, oh, it's a gift to have, or whatever. I just know things, or whatever. Like, I immediately had flashes to Unbreakable, where it's like, oh, it's Mr. Glass and Bruce Willis. And instead, all of that seemed to be, do you think that was intentional, like setting up like he was claiming to have, or indicating to the audience that he had some kind of psychic ability that was happening?
I think it's intentionally left as a Lady in the Candle sort of thing. Like, is it that? Or is it explainable? Because, the cab ride is a more exaggerated version of the same thing. If you want to believe that he's actually Birdman, you can look at that cab ride scene and go, no, I think he actually flew over the city, right? But I think most of us agree, like, no, that was definitely in his head. So, yeah, I think they did that intentionally as sort of a nice parallel thread for you to ponder on, exactly that question.
Gatawag has the best explanation yet. He says it's actually a sequel to Fight Club, and the Riggins character is just another personality of Ed Norton.
That's it.
Can we call it? We all agree? That's what it's got to be?
Oh, that's too good.
It's funny, Brian, because I didn't mind the ending, although I'm still unsure whether he actually jumped out of the window or not, and I kind of like that. It's a superposition for me. It's quantum, and it's explainable in both ways, and that's awesome. What I hated was the beginning. Him floating, I was like, ugh, I'm so disappointed in this movie now. Right from the very beginning, because I was like, really, he's floating? Like, he's really floating? And so it took a while for them to hammer into me, no, he really wasn't floating. Like, for a while, I thought, like, they're trying to sell to me that he has, like, secret powers.
Are you kidding me? That's what sold me. That's what got me in. That's what bought my ticket. Like this weird mishmash of images, and the very non-superhero-y, drum solo sounds and all this stuff. And then then all of a sudden it just cuts to this guy. And not only is he floating, but within seconds, he's in a crap hole, doing he's a play. I'm like, what kind of alien super being decides to become an actor of all things, and to have he's clearly insecure right at the beginning, which is what all of that engaged me. And it took a while to, of course, realize, what was really going on.
Well, and I think that's important too, that I think they were trying to sell you, especially up front, that maybe he is magical, or whatever, has telekinetic powers, whatever you want to call it. That I think they wanted to set that thought in your head that maybe he could be, and then tell the rest of this story to make you think, I still don't know if he is or not.
Yeah, sure.
Now, technically speaking, I was fascinated with the single shot aspect of it. Yes. And I was worried that knowing that they had done that it would take me out of it. And sometimes it kind of did, but most of the time I was just impressed with how well they pulled it off.
Yes. Well, and I did not know that going in, and it took a while to figure out that that's what they were doing. And especially as you become familiar with the content of it, you realize that I have to imagine that this is intentional, that when you go see a play, you are static and the scenes come to you in real time. The actors are there, they do a scene, the actors run off, the sets are moved, and they're presented to you. This is the movie equivalent of that. You are taken in your little floating rocket ship that goes from scene to scene to scene, where everything happens out real time, where it's up to you to understand that time is passing because we're transitioning from one scene to another. I thought that it was a good reimagining of all the conceits that we see in Broadway theater.
My only regret on Birdman is that I didn't see it with my wife because she was in New York for work at the time. So she got to see it in Times Square in a movie theater and then walk out of the movie theater into Times Square where Birdman had taken place, which would have been awesome.
That's amazing, dude.
I saw it in Beach City's ArcLight in Los Angeles and walked outside and squinted because he was really bright. But yeah, overall, I think we all like Birdman. Safe to say, right?
Sure. Absolutely.
With caveats, perhaps, for certain things. Thank you, Alex, for hanging around with us. We're going to move on to Spoilerin things that you haven't seen. You can hang out if you want, but it's up to you.
No, I can definitely hang out for a while.
Get ready to be spoiled.
Now we really are going to be spoiling because we're spoiling not only Alex, but also Bryce, who's producing the show, who hasn't seen our next episode of Better Call Saul, episode 4, where A, we get to see another flashback of Slippin' Jimmy, Brian, and B, we hear him utter the name Sall Good Man for the first time.
Okay, I cannot believe how dumb I am. That has been 4 years, and I never put together that Sall Good Man was a pun. Oh, dude, I just saw, I wish you could have seen this. I just said that, and Bryce's jaw just dropped. Yeah, man, opening scene, spoiler, and he's like, what's your name? He's like, Saul. He's like, Saul what? Sall Good Man. He's like, Sall Good Man. And I was like, what? It was amazing.
And it's obviously like, I want to believe that is supposed to be the first time he's ever used that. Because he says Saul, and the guy questions him, like, Saul? And he's just like, yeah, Sall Good Man. Like, he doesn't say Goodman the way.
Oh, that's right.
You know, it's like he's feeling it out for the first time. And I don't know, maybe I'm dumb, but I didn't realize that Saul was in on a shtick with the guy lying on the ground.
Oh, dude, I knew it. Hi, my name is Brian. I host a show called Scam School and Hacking the System. I sort of immediately saw the trappings of this.
Because I was confused, like, why he was giving up the watch. And then towards the end, I think my brain was starting to come around like, wait a minute, he wants him to take the watch, and slowly saw what was going on. But it was well, would you say, as the host of Scam School / Hacking the System, that it was well choreographed?
Oh, sure. I mean, that's give or take. I mean, obviously it's simplified, for time and for television presentation, but that is the classic scam, is that you get somebody who believes that they're getting something more. You let it be their idea to split it or to get ahead and to take a little bit of money compared to what he thinks is the big take that he's getting. And yeah.
Now, the rest of the episode takes place in the present, 2002, as we have learned. And we see Saul become a hero as a result of an attempt to bully Hamlin. Is it Hamlin? Is that right?
Man, I don't remember the name.
The big law firm.
Sure.
Into basically, he's using the technique of pushing them much farther than he wants them to go in order to let them settle back at a point where he is allowed to practice, because they've said he can't even use his name, and he's basically trying to get his name back.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that aspect. And it should be pointed out that all of this weird shenanigan is done with the seed money from the family that he finds camping in the woods, and that
from his consultant's fee.
Correct. Like, and that moment, and I totally, oh man, I so called that as well, where they're like, just take the money and go away. He's like, I can't take a bribe. I can take a retainer. and that moment where they say, like, I'm sorry, you're the kind of lawyer that guilty people hire. I thought all of that was great and very telling of where stuff was headed. Loved Bonnie ruined for me the scene with the guy falling off the billboard, because she saw that coming. Or like the moment that happened, she was like, instantly called it. I was like, God, yeah, of course that's what it is. But I thought it was great. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, it was a fun episode. I don't know that we actually. This is one of those times where it feels like a connecting episode. We didn't have anything really big happen. He got threatened by not Tuco, Nacho. He got pushed. He did some pushing against the law firm. He had a fight with his brother.
I would say this feels like, of all the episodes so far, the first consistent win episode for Saul. Like, if what we are to do is to root for this scrappy, strange, Jimmy kid, then this is the first one when, from beginning to end, I wanted him to win, and I was glad he won, and he did win across the board.
And thank you, chat room, Jackie and Dark Redeemer and Tondagosa and everybody. Hamlin, or I'm sorry, Tondagosa is just saying ham, but that's cool too. Howard Hamlin McGill is the law firm. I think this was for a connecting. The reason I brought it up is like, this is a connecting episode. We don't have a huge event. Is that it was still truly enjoyable. I was never bored. I was never sitting there like, yeah, we just got to get through this episode to get to the next one, I guess.
No. It was great. It was great because, again, we saw him win. We watched him get beat down for the first however many episodes, and now finally we're seeing him pull his scheme. I don't want to call it a scam. His scheme to get ahead. I thought it was interesting that he wants to hide his success from his brother, who very likely can immediately call BS. There was
also, how motivated does his brother have to be to go out in the blanket and get the paper to see why his brother is trying to hide the paper? I think he thinks it's worse than it is.
Yeah,
so I'm curious to see what his actual reaction is going to be when he confronts Jimmy about it.
So there was a brief moment when I was like, oh, this is too much. There are brief times of some over-the-top editing, and they do some cool time-lapse stuff and sound effect stuff. They're a little bit theatrical conceits within the world of television. But when he walks out and wraps himself in the Mylar blanket, and you hear the buzzing of the telephone wires and electricity, and it's as if it's the end of the earth, I was like, it reminded me of those over-the-top Indian television clips that they show with the whoosh, whoosh, whoosh from reality shows. And just as I was about to pull back and be like, this is too much, it shifted to the point of view of his neighbor. And it's suddenly a flat angle, dead quiet, couple birds chirping, and a crazy person's coming up to steal their paper and go running off. I was suddenly back on board.
It's that crazy guy from over across the street, right?
Yes.
Or next door or whatever. Like, my grandparents were that person. Like
watching everyone or being
just when they were in their retirement, sitting in their cul-de-sac, sitting in their house, they would open the curtains and watch the neighborhood.
Oh my gosh, that's good. I look forward to becoming that flavor of shut-in.
Yes, someday. May it happen to all of us. All right, anything else on Better Call Saul?
No, man, new episode tonight. I guess I'll watch tomorrow morning. Apologies to everyone who wanted more Walking Dead talk. We'll make sure to get back to that. Turns out that it's a good thing we didn't, because we got even more to talk about.
Yeah, House of Cards premiered this weekend, and as we may have mentioned on Cord Killers, if you watched the other show that we do, I watched 6 episodes of House of Cards, thinking that Brian was outpacing me, trying to keep going to make sure that I had watched enough. And Brian was thinking, because I had said at the time that I only watched 2, that he should stop. So did you watch 2 or 3?
I watched 2 and started the 3rd just barely. In fact, let me double check that, but I believe that's correct. I think the last thing, you know what? The last thing I saw was, maybe it was episode 3, where he announced that he would not be running or seeking re-election so he could focus on America Works, which I thought was, that speech, and chat room will correct me here any second now, that the surprise speech of how he was going to win by not attempting to seek the nomination, I thought was extraordinarily indicative of what the internet audience wants to hear from a fantasy candidate. This is a Democrat saying utterly undemocratic things. This is a Democrat in power who's socially liberal, who turns around and says, I want to take entitlements away from the elderly and the sick. And let me just say, if I was Netflix and I was programming to a demographic of 20 to 35-year-olds who were subscribing, maybe that's the kind of thing I would have a main character say so that we could cheer for him in that brief moment, making him a socially liberal, fiscally conservative, responsible, pro-work related Democratic fantasy candidate.
Well, that's certainly a fair point. That's what The West Wing did, right? That's why The West Wing was so successful, is they made a fantasy candidate that they knew a large portion of their viewing audience would enjoy. And so it's not wrong for them to do that. On the same token, I have seen this written by bipartisan panels who are charged with fact-finding to say, well, I'm sorry, guys, what you really should do is something that is very similar to America Works, but we know none of you have the political capital to make that happen. So that ties right into what you're saying, which is only a fantasy president like Frank Underwood could ever have the political capital to try something like that.
It's also the first time that we've ever seen an agenda item that we might root for, like we might care, like, oh, I wish somebody would do
education bill. I mean, there's been plenty of agenda items. I don't want to speak for everyone out there. I'm sure there's other agenda items that people would care about, but this is certainly the boldest, right?
Yes.
Like, it's the most sweeping.
I guess that's what I mean is that this is the first time that how you feel about the story is tied to the agenda item. If it was let's kill all children initiative.
Maybe I'm just dead inside. I don't know. I mean, like, that just struck me as like, oh, cold political calculation, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's.
And that's what Frank does.
Let's go backwards from here, or is it forward?
Although I want to say, I was out jogging today, and it struck me while I was jogging, because the parallel with Underwood's candidacy right now is the parallel with President Ford, right?
Yeah.
President Ford, a lot of people in the Republican Party did not want him to run for re-election. Ronald Reagan challenged him for the nomination in 1976 because he was an unelected sitting president. Gerald Ford could have done the same thing as Frank Underwood and said, I won't take the nomination, and I will work for you because I don't have anything to lose. But every second-term president could say the same thing. President Bush at the end of his second term and President Obama at the end of the current term could be saying, like, hey, I'm not running for re-election. Let me do all the stuff. So to me, that's more of a fantasy that even if he was able to say that, he could get anything done.
Yeah, but they've done a pretty fair job of indicating that Frank Underwood is exceptional at motivating people to get things done, right? So it's But
the reason you don't see actual presidents do this in their second term is the party says, oh, hell no. We all in Congress need to get reelected still, and we need you out there stumping for us and not being a pariah. So you're not going to do anything that'll sink the ship.
Agreed, which is why we're all watching House of Cards and not C-SPAN. Like this is why we're into this. There's also the what's the name of his former right-hand man who
Stamper?
Was Stamper. Yeah, Doug Stamper. That whole focus episode was extraordinary. I guess
the first episode?
Oh, wait, was that the first episode?
The first episode is pretty much all Stamper.
Okay, and it ends...
It's him in the hospital. It starts with him sitting down to meet the president, and then it flashes back to him in the hospital and going through rehab and all of that.
That was amazing to watch. And again, Bonnie called it. Like, the moment he breaks his arm, she's like, yeah, okay, so he ends up on pain meds and his dark descent into alcoholism again. And I was like, wait, what? And then you put it together like,
although he doesn't take the pain meds. I thought that was an interesting choice because I thought the same thing. Like, oh, here we go. But they took a side turn to get to the same place, which is like, aha, we're going to fool you because he's going to throw the pain meds away, but he will buy a bottle of whiskey instead.
No. He actually does take the pain pills.
Takes one, and then he throws the rest away, and he throws the prescription away. He crumples up the prescription and tosses it.
Oh, so man, I took it.
Doesn't go back and ever get pain meds.
I thought for sure.
But in his messed up alcoholic mind, he decides that better than getting stuck on the pain meds, which would be institutionally supported, he'll go buy whiskey and use a syringe to squirt it into his mouth because that's almost not drinking.
Okay, and by the way, I'm certain that is, although you could tell me I'm wrong later, I'm certain that's what's her name's junkie kit that he has kept.
Oh, I didn't even catch that. You're probably right,
dude. That's her kit when she was on the junk, and this is his fetishization of
totally
her.
His fetishization.
This is his understanding of her addiction and sharing in it in that moment. He's using his heroin with her equipment, so he feels a connection to her, which is why he had the prostitute do that.
Anyway, I actually thought the first episode was good. I thought it was a little draggy though. It was a bold choice to me to focus on Stamper so much out of the gate, but it is a really compelling story, and you can see where it's going now. I mean, obviously, Stamper is being marginalized. He's frustrated. What's he gonna do?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Regardless, enjoying it very much. I don't know. Did anyone tell me how far I got? If I got into the second episode or third episode, I could look it up.
Did you get to the part where the Russian president visits?
No.
Then you're on the second episode.
Okay, so I finished the second episode. I think that's the bulk of it. You continue to see the formalization of the almost business-like relationship between, Frank Underwood and his wife. Not that there's any big surprises there, but you see this very effective partnership that they have. This kind of cold partnership between them, with brief moments of heat in there.
Yeah, I like what they're doing, and because I've seen a few more episodes, I want to be careful about what I say, because it doesn't. The overall line is exactly what you just said, but I don't want to use examples that spoil anything in Spoilerin time. I think that we're seeing a flickering flame, right? That's exactly the way you described it, which is like it's a cold relation that flickers hot sometimes. And I'm really curious where that ends up going at the end of this season. Like, does that flame go out? Does it burn hotter? I'm not sure yet what direction they are going to take that in.
Yeah. Somebody in the chat saying that no, it was the doctor said he had to inject himself with steroids, the syringes from that. If that was the case, you would be not using the same syringe anytime, because as far as I know, no doctor has ever prescribed in the last 10 years, please use this same syringe over and over again to inject your steroids on yourself.
Yeah. Oh, right. He did have to inject some steroids. So maybe it is that.
Well, either way, I stand by my theory.
Here's the thing, and this question is not in any way motivated by episodes 3 through 6. What happens to Frank Underwood at the end of this season?
It's difficult because I can't divorce my speculation from the fact that I've heard rumors that there will only be 3 seasons. But I'm guessing, since everyone's seen it, that maybe it's open-ended, because people are, I don't know if this is truly the end. I know that the original miniseries was 3 episodes long, and I know that they're roughly following the original miniseries. My guess is that it wouldn't surprise me if they wrapped everything up. It wouldn't surprise me if there's some kind of just giant suicide at the end. He Birdmans it up or something out of the White House.
He just jumps out a window, and then Claire looks out the window and looks up and smiles.
Well, everyone's saying nope, definitely not, as far as only 3 seasons. So then I
have not found definitive answer on that. I tried to find that actually yesterday. We were talking about it because my sister-in-law and her husband and Eileen and I were watching episodes yesterday, and they asked that. And I'm like, I'd heard that it might only be 3 seasons, but I could not find anything one way or the other.
Yeah, well, that's great,
nothing official anyway.
Look, there's no greater gift than not knowing how it'll come out. I mean, that's one of the most exciting possibilities of all. And so to dive into a narrative story like this, honestly, not knowing what comes next is a rare and precious gift, which is why we're all psychotic about spoilers.
All right. Anything else on House of Shields?
No, House of Cards. House of Shields was, of course, where we shot
the first bar ever featured in Scam School.
That's right. That's where we shot the pilots for Scam School.
It's a good bar. Yeah, I was looking at the list of episodes of The Shield because episode 13 of season 4 is called Ain't That a Shame? And so true in so many ways. Ain't that a shame that I had to watch it on Hulu and watch commercials?
Oh, dude, you did have to watch commercials?
Only one per break, so it wasn't horrible. They were 30-second commercials, but wow, is it still such a different experience to be like, oh, this is what a commercial break when people watch The Shield felt like.
Did it ruin the experience? Because I remember...
Didn't ruin it. It was fine. I thought it would ruin it more than it did. And I think because it was only one commercial, it actually gave me a chance to lean back for a second and go, all right, let me process what I just saw and get back into it. So in a way, it was more like aerating the episode a little.
So once again, in my utter fascination with the difference between how people perceive things at the time versus in retrospect, ain't that a shame? IMDb rating with 1,025 votes gives it 2 out of 5 stars. TV.com rating with nearly 200 votes gives it 4.5 stars.
I would have to go with TV.com. This is one of my favorite episodes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I have really, really adored Glenn Close's performance in this season. I thought the character was fantastic. The idea of Captain Rawlings, or the character of Captain Rawlings, made Aceveda work for me. And we've discussed why I had a different reaction than maybe people who were watching it at the time had, because I've got The Wire in my head and all this stuff,
sure,
and people didn't back then. But to me, Aceveda felt like a paper captain, right? It was like, oh, he's going to be the good foil to Vic Mackey's bad foil. Oh, wait a minute. No, he's not. And he ends up being kind of a jerk. As soon as you make him a councilman, his personality makes sense.
Perfect. All of a sudden, he becomes Michael Carcetti,
it's like,
right?
Oh yeah, no, you are a councilman. Like you are willing to bend with the wind. You will make a deal with the DEA one day, and then you'll try to help work against that deal the next, up to a point, as long as it doesn't actually foil your plans or in any way get in your way. I also thought it was a great choice because of how they got rid of Captain Rawlings, because I expected, like, okay, where this is going is the seizure program will be ended and she will quit, or she will be, they'll get rid of her because of the seizure program. And we even have the red herring of her wanting to seize one last house. And you're like, oh, well, here it comes. It's going to be the seizure program. And then it's not. It's her and Mackie working against the DEA and catching the guy they were looking for that gets her fired. And I'm like, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. So she got fired, as we all knew she would, but not in any way for the reason I would think so, and in a way that is entirely abhorrent. You're like, but she caught a bad guy.
Yeah.
A real bad guy, and she gets punished for it. It's so excellent.
This is me now talking around spoilers, where it's like, if there's one thing that the Shield is utterly fantastic at, is the Pyrrhic victory. The fact that you can, in a galvanized way, get exactly what you hoped, but regret having gotten there,
Yeah, and I like that I thought it was a little bit clumsy how they got the strike team back together, but I like that the strike team is back together. I like that we saw Shane and Lem wrestling in the bar during the wake. That was very much reminiscent of The Wire when they go to the bar. I'm like, this is how the Shield cops party versus McNulty and his guys partying. And I thought that was an excellent way to wrap up this season. And obviously I know a few things about characters and actors that are coming in the future seasons, but I am very eager to find out what happens in Farmington after the firing of Captain Rawlings. I also, I almost forgot this, those scenes where they show Rawlings in despair sitting at home. And is she going to tell Mackie that he's still being investigated and that they found something on him? And you could tell that she wants to. And they hold you in suspense to the very end on that. No, she doesn't, or at least she hasn't yet at the end of this episode. Is she going to kill herself? Like that was a thought that popped into my mind at one point. And of course, we don't, again, no spoilers, but at the end of this episode, she hasn't. So, it's really, really intriguing how this, without being a cliffhanger ending, feels like a cliffhanger ending, because you just don't know what's going to happen next in the precinct once season 5 starts.
Yeah, all I want to do is tell you about what happens in season 5, so it's probably best if we end here. But
all right, just a note: cross spoiler, House of Cards, The Shield. We both were talking before the show about seeing the guy who plays Aceveda show up in House of Cards again this season, which he has before. And I told Brian, like, this is the first time when I saw him, I've watched enough of The Shield that it took me a lot longer to get Aceveda out of my head. That first episode we see Mendez, I'm like, nope, that's Aceveda. That's not Mendez. And Brian, you told me a great way of fusing them that I think I'm going to use.
Oh, dude. Yeah, no, I say it is Aceveda. I say that for whatever reason he got disgraced, he changed his name, and he got elected to the Senate, and now all of a sudden he's a big hot deal in Washington, D.C. I love that. I also would like to think that he, shortly after House of Cards, cryogenically freezes himself for, I don't know, a few hundred years, leaves Earth that was, ends up as a bandit stealing parts for in the Firefly universe, which is why he tries to steal Serenity.
Yeah. No, that's totally the story of Aceveda Mendez / Salvager.
Salvager man.
I don't remember his name in Firefly, but
wait, do you remember him in that?
I do remember him.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
And again, I've seen that episode millions of times. I've watched Firefly over and over and over again.
Sure.
But I never thought of him as Aceveda. And he looks different enough there that when I watched The Shield, I didn't think, oh, it's the Salvager guy so much. Yeah, I wonder.
No, that was a total mind blow moment because I watched Firefly like right as I was watching The Shield, and it was I guess he had done Firefly before The Shield, and then or maybe even parallel to it. I don't know, because Firefly came out 2001.
Now I'm fascinated in taking all
of his stories and making him into one narrative.
Could it be done?
All right. You know what? Why don't you write us, cordkillers@gmail.com, and tell us the true story of Aceveda Mendez, Salvager man.
IMDb sucks at doing reverse lookup. They're like so actor based.
You had me at IMDb sucks.
Benito Martinez. There he is. So yeah, if you can tie in House of Cards, Beyond the Lights, Graceland, The Mentalist, Almost Human, Dallas, Army 2, Castle, Bless Me Ultima, Sons of Anarchy, Supernatural, and Saving Grace with The Shield, we will all be in awe of
Were
you.
we saying Menendez or Mendoza?
Oh, is it? I was saying Mendez. Is it Mendoza?
Whatever. It's he said in a
Oh, I can look. I'm on this page. It is Mendoza. Hector Mendoza.
Mendoza. There it is.
All right. Well, thank you all for watching Spoilerin Time. If you only watch Spoilerin Time, if you're one of the 65 or so people who do back us on our Patreon, patreon.com/cordkillers, because that is the other show we do under the Cord Killer House brand.
Hey, real quick, talking about IMDb, I just looked up Hacking the System, and it lists Hacking the System and says stars Jason Murphy, Victoria, Taylor Cole. See the rest.
What?
And then, I show up. It says here, host, unknown episodes.
Wait, Jason Murphy is only listed for 3 episodes.
Of course. Why not? If somebody wants to fix that, that would be amazing.
Well, it also seems like the rest of the cast is listed on the details page, except you.
Yeah, accurately. It's, yeah. Well, whoever wants to fix that, that's a thing.
No, that's insane. All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching Spoiler Time. We'll spoil you next week.
Yeah, we love you, though. That's why we spoil you so.
Mm-hmm.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.